Most people would call Dan Lucchini crazy. He goes to bed around 6:30 p.m. each night and wakes up around 1:30 a.m. to train, leaving his wife to sleep through the night. Trust me, she doesn't mind. He goes to unbelievable lengths to win races and to perform at his best, and ultimately he's the most driven person that I have ever met. We talked about his why and what makes him tick. Let's get into this episode. Giddy up. Dan Lucchini, welcome to The Long Run.
Thanks, Sean. Thanks for having me.
Mate, great to have you here. We've been chatting online for some time now. Last year, you absolutely smashed the course record of the Bali Hope Ultra, and here we are sitting in Bali, filming in my room in the villa. Mate, it's unreal to be able to do this and to spend the week with you so far.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure getting to finally actually meet you and being able to connect all week, and I'm excited to sort of dive into all of this stuff.
Yeah, definitely, mate, definitely. I remember I was running, I would have been in Northern Territory because, I would have just probably hit Darwin and been in Northern Territory around that mark. And the Bali Hope Ultra was on. I was doing my best to follow it when I was on the run around Australia, despite being absolutely buckled. And then the next day I get, the text come through on the WhatsApp and your result, and I was just like, who is this animal? Because I think back, and I know I was only a young pup, but I was 21 and raced across Bali in 8 hours 14, which is like a 5:55 pace for 84K with 1,700 meters of elevation. And you took 53 minutes off that time. It must have been a great result and one you're really proud of.
Yeah, look, to this day, it was the best run I've ever had.
Yeah.
It was the one where I truly walked away and felt like I gave everything on the day. I gave everything in the lead up. Mm-hmm. Not the greatest lead up in many ways, but I gave everything anyway, and to be able to do that was amazing. And yeah, I remember in the lead up to that week, you were posting like videos to our group chat, and I was like, this guy is running around Australia posting videos, like I got to show up and just make the most of this opportunity, because this race is obviously special to still be able to capture your attention as well.
Oh man, it's the best. Honestly, this week in general, for anyone who hasn't listened yet, I had Tom Hickman on this podcast, and we chatted about the Bali Hope experience, how it came to fruition, and what it's grown to. Like, it's truly remarkable. It's an event that keeps bringing me back. It's obviously brought you back from last year. And we're here today filming right now. It's Saturday afternoon, and the runners are about to start tonight. I'm going to be on the motorbike because I'm still injured with my foot, unfortunately, from the run around Australia. You'll be support crewing the cars.
Yeah, no running this year, but I knew I had to come back and give back to this event. It quite literally changed the trajectory of my life in so many ways. Not even as a runner, just as a person. And
is that because this event then kick-started that decision to move?
Yeah, this is exactly. I got back from this trip, and I think within a week I decided that I no longer wanted to live where I was living. Mm-hmm. I wanted to expand, my experience of the world and start traveling and start seeing the world from a different light. It changed my perspective of how to travel and what that meant, and what you can really gain from it. And it opened up. It proved to me that I was capable of doing what I really want to do.
Yeah, unreal. I mean, so far you've been traveling for how many months? 5 months?
5-month anniversary yesterday. Yeah.
And where have you been?
Malaysia, Singapore, Sri Lanka, Thailand, and Bali now.
And about to go to Vietnam?
About to go to Vietnam in a few days, yeah.
And what's the rule when you reach a new country? What do you have to do?
Not just a new country, a new accommodation.
Okay.
I have to do a half marathon that morning. So,
okay.
I try to plan flights that don't arrive too late, so that's not too rough. But the last couple of days we've been moving around a lot, so it's been quite a few halfers. But there's no better way to get acquainted with a place than cover 21 kilometers with your feet and see what's out there.
Definitely, mate. It's been unreal. I mean, this week we met at the Alila would have been Wednesday night. We were eating dinner together, and you said, what are you doing at 5 a.m? We're doing gym. And we ripped into a back session. I turned up there, and you'd already run 22K that morning. Yeah.
I'm always done early, and I like to try and, we're going to do something, let's do it.
Do it and give it, give
let's
it
not
all.
mess around. We'll just get out there and get into it and figure it out once you're there.
Yeah, unreal, mate, unreal. How do you get to this level with your running? I mean, obviously it's a journey, and one of the things that I love about running is it humbles you if you don't give it years. Too many people right now we're seeing are trying to take on challenges of less than a year of preparation, and I just look at it and think, like, why are you doing that? Because ultimately you're going to be disappointed in the result anyway, because you haven't given yourself the time that you need. How long have you been on this path and running long distances for?
I started very loosely in 2019. Did a little bit sort of through the end of that year, and then 2020 sort of started to develop a little bit, and I did my first, I guess, long run, which was a 50K in 2020.
Did you raw dog it? No nutrition, no hydration?
No nutrition. It was the longest thing, anything over 25 I'd ever done.
Oh, shit.
Well, no, I had some water. I was drinking out of a bubbler near Bondi Beach, but it wasn't coming out fast enough, so I was using the one at the bottom, which is for the dogs. And this lady walked past and she's like, that's for dogs, and I wasn't feeling good at this stage. I'm like, I don't care at this point, I'm just drinking whatever I can get. But yeah, that was first ultra marathon in one go.
Yeah, and then that, like, was it something that during that 50K you thought, I want to really continue and push with this sport, or was it on reflection of that 50K hit out? When was the sort of turning point in your brain that was like, I'm going to really go hard at this?
Yeah, at that stage I still wanted to. Ended up doing a 100K towards the end of that year. And then after the 100K though, the fire was instantly gone. I didn't want to ever do it again. So it sort of took a couple goes at the flame, and I took a year off endurance running after that and did a bit of sprinting.
Really, 2021?
2021, yeah. I did powerlifting before, so power and like trying to just develop like the strength was always something big for me. So endurance running just hadn't become part of me yet.
Of course. But you would have had a lot of transfer from that strength, like from the powerlifting
to a certain degree. I think people can overemphasize that a little bit. Like there's definitely benefits, like when it comes to tendons and ligaments.
Yeah,
but I also think it's, you know, I spent the first 3 months of my running journey not being able to run because my body just did not move like a human should to be able to run. You know, I'd run 200 meters, my back would seize up. So you walk and you just, but eventually the body sort of figures it out if you just keep, you know, you sort of touched on what's the key. It's just relentless consistency. Things will fall into place if you just keep putting them somewhere close to the mark.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously powerlifting, it would have been a completely different body composition as well, right? Yeah,
I was a little fluffier, a little heavier. Probably about 15 kilos lighter these days, but it was a gradual process of sort of shedding whatever was holding me down.
Yeah, unreal. I mean, I think like it's worth noting as well, you're a run and strength coach for runners as well. And a lot of people just don't give enough credit to strength training, and they don't put the time in. Obviously, I know the miles that you put in week on week. Like we've been here, as I said, for 5 days. You're putting in nearly 20K runs every morning, some more, some a little bit less. That mileage is certainly not built overnight, but how much strength work do you do, and how important is it for other people, do you think?
You know, I answer the last bit first. I think it's critical if you want to be good. If you want to be able to handle volume, if you want to be able to perform, if you want to move in a suitable way, because we're counteracting our lifestyle decisions and everything else we do. So strength training is a way to develop your body in a way that makes it good at running. And then you do the running from there, and that is what actually develops your running. But you know, when I'm prepping for something specific, I'm probably doing weights 4 times a week. Bit of a like sort of variation on strength and power work, combining those two together. Right now, while I'm in a maintenance phase, I'm using strength training as fun. I enjoy it. It's something that, it's where I started. Like I used to full bro out in the gym. It's something I love. So I'm training weights 7 days a week at the moment. And it's sort of all part of the mindset development too. And even when I am prepping and I'm only doing the 4 days, I still go to the gym 7 days a week. I believe in that daily, you know, deposit into the bank. It just looks different at that stage. Right now it's not the greatest performance-based training, but it's the month.
And of course, like even with your races, you're trying to peak at the right time. So you're still tapering off. You might be in the gym, but focusing on more mobility and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. I'm still running every day in the lead up to something, but they just become less intense and less duration.
Yeah, unreal. Mate, it's remarkable. As I mentioned, that result in Bali Hope, I was running along the highway and I thought I had to double take that text message. I was just like, that is insane. And yeah, I've been fascinated to get to know you because we've chatted for a while now, a few months online, and have followed your journey. And every day I look at this and I'm sharing with my partner Chloe, I'm sharing with family, friends. I'm like, this guy's running at 3 a.m. And like, you know, I think even waking up at 3 a.m. is crazy, but to be out there already putting in some big Ks, how long has that been a part of your makeup? Like, have you always been someone to go to bed really early and just be up at ridiculous times, like 1:30 a.m., 2 a.m. to crack into another half marathon or whatever it may be?
Yeah, like it's become, I guess, sort of gradually more in like out of the ordinary over time, but it's settled sort of where it is maybe over the last 3 years. Even when I was younger, I used to get up relatively early. Like my dad would get up early for work, so if I ever had to go with him, I'd be up. I didn't necessarily like it so much back then. But then it became a matter of necessity. Like when I finished high school, I was working in gyms, and you know, when you work in gyms, you generally start at 6 a.m. and you know, I'd want to do something else during the day if I was studying as well. So it's just getting that training out of the way. You know, it's my favorite part of the day. I don't want anything to disturb that. So I prioritized it early. So maybe it was 5 a.m. at that time, and then training sessions got longer as I was a powerlifter, so it became 4 a.m. And then I had a stage where I was working 3 jobs, studying, and the only time I could get there was, you know, 4 a.m., 3 a.m. So that starts happening. And then I got married and I'm living with my wife, and I want to be able to be there with her, but I still want to train 6 hours a day. So I figured out a way to make both happen without it being too interruptive. You know?
Is that sort of the go-to? Even you mentioned before you're in a maintenance period right now, 6 hours a day.
6 hours, whether I'm in maintenance, prep, it's the number. That's the number.
Just the intensities vary.
The intensities vary, and the modalities. Like I'll call it training, but you know, I'm just walking fast up a hill or something like that. But if I'm in prep, that time is more dedicated to specific stuff. So
I mean, here in Bali, you've been trying to hit 70,000 steps a day. And when you told me that, I was just like mind blown, because around Oz, it was about 100,000 steps a day. And I'm running a double marathon. I'm like, you're nearly there.
Yeah, I worked it out. Over the last 6 years, I've done the equivalent of someone doing 4,000 steps a day every day for 80 years. I think I average about 60K a day. It's not necessarily that I'm aiming for a number. It's just I'm trying to get as much in as I can, because that gives me the most opportunity to experience something. I'm not going to experience, especially while I'm traveling, some awesome interaction with someone sitting in my hotel room. I'm not going to experience discovering a new food sitting in my hotel room, you know, unless I get lucky with a Google search. But and I have a rule as well. I don't use my phone unless I'm walking, whether that be for work or even just, you know, scrolling social media or whatever. I have to be moving, so get up and go for a walk.
Wow, I love that, mate. I think a lot of people could learn from that and just being, you know, more productive with their time. I think talking to a bunch of the runners here, we obviously have several breakfast, lunch, dinners over the Bali Hope Ultra week, and I'm getting to know all the different runners, and some of them have asked me about me and the run around Australia, and then they're like, what's with that Daniel guy? And they're asking questions. I'm like, you know what? I've only known Dan for this week as well. We chatted a bit online beforehand, but I'm like, he's just obsessed, and obsession takes you a long way. And that's how I run around Australia. You have to be obsessed. And it is really hard to explain to people, but one of the things that I admire so deeply about you is that you are non-apologetic with your time. And I think that can come across as rude to people sometimes, but you're really just trying to be the best version of you, for your loved one, your wife, and the rest of your family, for your clients, with work. Like, how have you found that balance? That must be hard.
Yeah, I found the balance by failing at that heaps of times. You know, I truly believe you need to be the right amount of selfish in order to be selfless. In order to give to others, you need to give yourself everything. There's no point trying to give someone an empty box because they don't get anything out of it. But yeah, I've sucked at it before. And I think we need to accept, again, handle the consequences. I've made decisions and I've chosen not to attend things that I've regretted after, and have perhaps upset people, and in hindsight, maybe I shouldn't have sacrificed that for the sake of my training. But it's only through those failures that you can find the balance and learn to communicate it. You know, in the lead up to Bali Hope, you know, when I went to sign up, it was obviously a discussion with my wife, like, are we gonna do this? And in that, you understand that means I'm going to be this. We're not going to the parties. We're not going to bed. And that's just who I am.
Yeah.
She's loving and supportive and was all aboard for that. And, you know, within that, you still, again, I'm training early so that I can still give time. It's working it out with the other people involved in your life through clear communication. And then it's just practice. It's giving it a go and figuring it out. And learning to love the failure of it.
Yeah, true. I think that embracing that failure makes a lot of sense to then get to this point, because I know I need to work on communication. I think a lot of people do. And I think that, you explained to me, we were having lunch the other day and you were talking about, this is how I live. I might be going to bed at 6:30, 7 o'clock at night and waking up at 1:30, 2 a.m., whatever it may be. Of course, there might be times where I can't do that. Like, we've got family coming over, and that's, you know, I will show up for my wife and for my family, but I'll be also clear that I'm going to bed at 8 p.m. And it's setting those boundaries, but with clear communication, and that's obviously made you the athlete you are. An obsessed athlete will go to another level to perform, and obviously you've done it and you continue to do that, which is epic. How far would you go? Like, what would you do in a race that maybe someone else wouldn't do? Or is there anything that you have done in a race that someone else wouldn't do?
I feel like it's potentially a leading question, you sure? I haven't found something I wouldn't do yet. I wouldn't deliberately affect someone else's race.
No.
Other than maybe some mental chatter. But that's part of the game. I potentially would not stop to urinate, and perhaps at this race last year I also didn't stop to poo. There's maybe some clear conditions around, would I poo myself in a race? Yes is the answer. I have. Sorry, Mum. But if I would never wear white shorts, and I'd make sure I'm very sweaty, because it sort of does the cleaning job for you. So
we were in the gym a couple of days ago, and the question just came up to Dan. We were talking about being so obsessed, and you know, we were talking about the Bali Hope Ultra, and like, if like in my race I needed to go to the bathroom in the middle of the race, like, that's hard. And Dan's just like, I didn't stop. And I was like, you shit yourself in the race. And he's like, mate, I was there to run the best I can. So that was a little bit of a set-up question.
But, look, in the end, you have one opportunity to get the best time in that day as possible. And if it means a little bit of poo in your pants, then I just can't see an issue with that. You know, if Mum and Grandma were in the crowd, I might not have done it. But running through the streets of Bali, it felt okay. It felt right to me. Didn't feel great, but it felt right.
It just felt right. That makes sense.
I have no regrets. I have no regrets.
Obviously, your business also called Meraki Performance. What does Meraki mean?
It basically means to put a part of your soul into what you do. It's creating, you know, we were talking before about the walking and my phone and things like that. We talk about making health and fitness a lifestyle. And it's making your life include health and fitness. It's making all of these things fit together. So when you put a part of who you are into what you do, it becomes truly authentic in every way. And that doesn't just mean my running. This doesn't just mean my coaching. It's when I cook, I give everything to that cooking. It's when I'm talking to you now, I'm trying to give everything, including telling stories about pooing my pants. Like, it's just putting yourself into the things you do and leaving it, trusting that there's enough of you to go around, trusting that the world will give back to you. I think, you know, my favorite quote is you've got more to give, and that kind of applies to everything, not just performance. And if everyone in the world gives everything they have to the things they do, then there's going to be plenty to go around. It's those who aren't willing to give, just take, that sort of break that balance. So I try to promote that in my coaching. It's like, sure, you know, we don't need to take things super seriously, but you should take them seriously, but just do that with a lightheartedness. It's like, I'm going to give everything to this run today. Like, I will die for this race. I've thought those thoughts. Like, I've envisioned what I would do. Like, will I run with a broken leg? Like, yes, I will. But it's like, have fun with that idea. Enjoy the irony of how pointless everything we're doing is, but with a full commitment. Because otherwise, what's the point?
Well, I think you'll be able to grow old and to look back and know that you really didn't leave no stone unturned.
Yeah.
You lived a full life, which is amazing, mate. Really cool. One of the reasons I've created this podcast, obviously I love having the opportunity to talk with like-minded people and learn more about them. You can always take a little bit from someone else. But one of the things that I've consciously made the decision on is that, you know, I have a bit of a profile now from the Run Around Australia, and it might not be as big as some other people's, but with that, I feel like there is a duty to lift up other runners. And I feel like what you've achieved in your running and what you continue to achieve, as well as what you're doing with helping others through coaching, deserves limelight. And I know that sometimes that can be hard to receive, because you're not in it for that. Like, there's no way that you're waking up at 1:30 a.m. to go and rip a half marathon at 2 a.m. if that's what it's about for you. So I have the utmost respect for that. But I also think that social media and things can be interesting, right? Because there's what I describe as the real runners and the social media runners. How do you find that dynamic? It is a bit of an interesting one.
It is. Look, I try not to let it be something that influences me. You know, the way I use social media from every marketing angle is terrible. I overshare stuff. I put up, you know, too much information or not enough information. But for me, what means the most is being authentic and sharing the experience and sharing what's there. But then, yeah, it can become frustrating when you see other coaches who, you know, haven't necessarily done their duties, or other runners who haven't, you know, really put in the kilometers and they get recognition. But I think we just need to trust again in that give, and you will receive what you need from the world.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I think everyone just needs to, you know, if you fit that category of the social media runner, you need to look at the potential negative influence of what you're doing has on others. If we create unrealistic expectations for people, you're not lifting anyone up.
Yeah.
You're potentially crushing people. You're potentially hurting them. And yeah, personal responsibility. We absorb what we absorb because we choose to, but it's not that simple when we're surrounded by it. It's hard. Like, I see people out there doing stuff like, I want to go try and run across Australia or around Australia to get some extra credit for myself, but that's not what I actually want. So I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
It's a difficult space to manage, and I think
It is, yeah.
we need to just focus on remaining authentic and true to ourselves, and trusting that others will do that. And, you know, being compassionate to those who maybe don't do that right now, who are in that figuring out process.
Yeah.
And they've been captured by an idea, and I wish them well to find a path that's more true to them and really fulfills them. And if that is what's fulfilling them, well, good on them. You know, buy me a meal one night again.
No, definitely. Well said, mate. I think that it's just growing and growing and growing, this sport. And with that, there comes challenges, because it's like, well, yeah, you do question people's motives, and you question, like, do you really love this? Like, there is a reason it took me 6.5 years to be able to run around Australia. There's a reason you got a 7:21 result at Bali Hope and remarkable results in other races, because you live and breathe this day after day after day. And I think that any ultra runner with some form of platform has, you know, the genuine duty, as I mentioned, to share other people's success, lift them up. And I love that, you know, I mentioned to you on the way here to Bali on social media, we were talking, and I said I'd love to get you on the long run, and you said, unreal, that'd be great. Can I also buy one of your shirts? Like, and I was just like, that's so kind, mate. You know, a rising tide lifts all boats was what you said, and I appreciate that, and that's why I want to talk about Meraki performance as well, because I understand that people are drawn to different people in life. And as you said, if you give your all to something, like, there's more than enough. And that's always the case. And people can learn from different people in different ways. How has that journey sort of evolved for you I know you mentioned you went from a powerlifter to a runner. Where did coaching and run coaching come into the journey for you?
Yeah, well, first of all, I appreciate all that, mate. It gave me little goosebumps there and everything. I think it's so true. It's not a zero-sum game. We just need to do that. But yeah, coaching, I've been a coach now for 12 years in a variety of, I guess, different evolutions. You know, I started working as a gym PT, and then very quickly got into the strength and conditioning world. That's kind of, I guess, my background. I was a sprint coach, a strength coach. I worked in team sports for a long time. Then sort of got into the high performance world, and I guess going by my business name, it's putting a part of yourself into what you do. As my training evolved, my coaching sort of goes with that. Whether it's just because that's now what I'm sharing, it attracts those people. So yeah, powerlifting coach for a while. Got into like handstand coaching a little bit and sort of movement culture type things. And then as I started running, that came with it. And I think if there's one thing I've realized is that coaching is coaching. Technical skills are 1, easy, 2, ever changing, and 3, never apply to more than one person anyway. But learning people is the most important part. Definitely. So I feel blessed to be able to work with so many different populations at different stages of my life. So it's like a different version of me is working with different versions of people. There's just so much learning that has happened. And right now I feel at a point where I'm sure in 5 years I'll look back and think I have no idea what I'm talking about. But now I feel confident in engaging in the conversation. Yeah. I have plenty to learn about the best methods for running, and I continue to try and do that. And I have plenty to learn about people, but I feel confident in my ability to learn how to learn now. And that's where the focus is. And that's what you can't, there's this trend now as well of like hybrid coaching, and people have done 1 half marathon and think they can coach other runners, and you haven't experienced running yet. And I'm not saying you need to wait till you've done it for 10 years, but just be realistic about what you're offering in that sense. Like you got to put the kilometers in, literally and metaphorically.
And the qualifications. It's why I appreciate what you've done and why I want to bring light to that. Like I was learning when we were sitting down at dinner the other day, you were a S&C coach for the West Tigers in the NRL. Yeah,
so I worked through the different grades there. Sort of finally got my sort of contract towards the top end, and that's when I decided that it wasn't for me anymore. But did some time there, got great exposure with great mentors there, and was able to be an assistant there at the different grades in New South Wales Cup and the Jersey Flegg, back when that was still a thing.
It's cool.
So I learnt a lot there, and I learned that that's not what I wanted to do, which gave me more clarity about what I did want to do. Each exposure to what you don't want to do is like one step towards finding what you do want to do.
Definitely. I used to be a personal trainer, more group fitness, but I did a bit of both. And the personal training was at F45 for a period of my life. And just the energy you have to bring to these classes, and then trying to train and do an interval session at 11 a.m. or midday, I was wiped. And it's a really hard dynamic because I want to be the best coach that I can be, but I also want to be the best athlete that I can be. And I was a PT at that time, not a run coach just yet. I've been run coaching now for 3 years. But it was a journey to work out, like, how can I continue to be the best athlete and coach? And ultimately, it amalgamated in time from first 42K to Sean Bell run coaching. But it's really understanding, like, as you mentioned, like owning your time and being non-apologetic with that. Because when I wasn't getting in the training that makes me the best version of myself, then I'm down, I'm not showing up the best that I can for the loved ones. And I think that making that shift to online coaching has given me flexibility, but it's also given me more balance to then be the best version of myself, because I can hit that training first thing and win the morning, which is obviously a big part of what you do as well.
Yeah, maybe when you're at 45, you should have started getting up at 3 a.m. Could have trained together, but yeah, it's you need to be strict with, and taking on your own business and going online where there's essentially no rules. Yeah, it actually requires more rules. Yeah. Like you need to create rules for yourself. Like the app that I use for communication only has certain hours that I look at it. It's just little things like that allow you to exactly still be a runner. Because if you're half training, half coaching, half being a husband, half being a friend, and half being a chef all at the same time, you're not doing any of them really well. So it's like, get your time sorted, prioritize the things that are most important to you, and communicate with the people involved in that, and then go all in on it. Yeah. And if you fail, readjust. Yeah. Nothing is set in stone. You get as many chances as you want, as long as you're genuine about your efforts and your intentions.
So true. I mean, and obviously it's always evolving, but how would you describe your coaching philosophy, approach in a nutshell?
Autonomy. I always am seeing how I can get someone to an autonomous experience. How can they make as many decisions as possible? How can they drop me as a coach? How can they learn enough about themselves and the process where they don't need me, but they can benefit from me? Yeah. I want them to be involved, because I frame conversations with my clients as a interview, like first discovery calls with my clients if I'm trying to get people to sign on as a conversation. Because I know strategy, I know technique, I know the different principles of progressive overload and all these terms, but I don't know them. And I could know someone for 10 years, but I'll never know them as well as they know them.
Yeah.
So the conversation needs to be me giving them what should be done or what I think is the optimal, then telling them telling me the reality, and we creating a blend of the two. So if I can get someone confident enough to go, hey, this didn't feel how I think it should feel, how can we adjust this? That's the autonomy I want to give people. Sure, I don't actually expect them to write their own program. That would be a great business model for me, but it's not realistic. But it's how much of them can they put into what they're doing? How much of that Merakai can they embody?
Merakai. I must have said it wrong before.
I actually believe it's pronounced Meriki, but I like saying Merakai, so I'm going to say it how I want because it's just letters.
Yeah, so true, so true.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously from your own journey, then you've seen through your clients as well. For the new runner that's listening to this, what are some of the biggest mistakes that you see?
Rushing the process. You know, you jump on, you see someone, he's like, I started running 3 weeks ago and I just ran an hour 20 half marathon. Yeah. But you don't know that he played football for, 20 years.
So true.
Get out there and experience it. Don't try to overthink. Don't try to be too smart. Don't try to be too technical. You know, we have so much information. You could go out and just use Google and become a coach. There's enough information, but you haven't learnt the communication with yourself about what feels right, what doesn't. So take your time. Don't take, it doesn't mean you have to stay at a 3 kilometer run forever, but ease into that process. Learn to do it in a way that you're able to stay relaxed through that process. If you're becoming stressed and you're looking at other people running and you're on Strava or whatever and they're running these times and that creates stress in you, slow down. Don't worry about that. Turn it off. Turn your watch off. We try to get too good too quick. We try to be too perfect. Yeah. You don't need to train like Roger Federer to get to where Roger Federer is now because he didn't do that. Yeah. He used to go out and hit balls. You need to go out and just run, feel it, and gradually use these other things as boosts. I started running before I knew anything about running. Yeah. I started coaching running before I knew anything about running. Because if you wait till you know everything, you don't know anything yet. Yeah. There's a difference between understanding. That's easy. I understand heaps of things, but I don't know them. You don't know them till you've done them. So take your time and learn by knowing and by doing, and just gradually. There's no rush. You'll get there, and you'll get there in the best way possible. Because, why get somewhere fast if when you get there you're not happy there? Take your time.
And that comes back to what we were talking about before, like people taking on events as well prematurely. It's like you're probably not even going to enjoy it. You're going to hate the process, and you're not going to get the result that you're after either because you've tried to rush something. Like you have to try and find the joy in the day-to-day process and embrace the hard, like you do.
Yeah. There's no glory in doing something and doing it poorly. If that's what you're chasing, if it's glory, then do the work. Yeah. Ultra marathons, everyone looks at the race as the hard thing. It's not. That's easy. Bali Hope Ultra 2024 was the easiest part of the prep. It was the 8 months of battling chronic fatigue and
the 230k week.
The 230k weeks, 5-6 weeks in a row.
Yeah,
It was running 250Ks a week while I was living in a van for a year. It's 12,000 kilometer year backed up with a 10,000 kilometer year. That's
your running mileage for a year, 12,000k.
I did 22 over 2 years, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. That was my sort of, while living in a van and then moving to Perth.
Wow, mate. Let's unpack that. That's huge. Yeah. Obviously, you say living in a van, you went with your partner around Australia. How was that experience as a whole? And what was it like running that much over the journey?
It was, it was an incredible experience overall. It was intense. It got really hard towards the end. I learned a lot now for this international travel. But yeah, it was full on. I think in some ways, I look back at it and think I could have done it in a better way. I missed out on too much. It's that talking about finding balance. I tried to do everything. So yeah, we traveled around living in just a small van, no shower, no toilet, just using gyms as all of that. And I was trying to run these ridiculous kilometers, and I was doing a master's degree, and I was working full-time on my business, but at the same time it was full of incredible experiences. It was living in a space this big with my wife a month after we got married, putting our marriage to the ultimate test off the bat. Well, almost the ultimate test anyway, and yeah, it landed us in Perth, and then Perth made it possible to come to here because it's close to Bali. And now Bali last year made it possible to start this travel. So it's like, it led to all of this. It was incredible. But yes, again, it was one of those things where it's, in some ways I failed, but really I didn't, because it's led to this moment now. So it's trusting myself to deal with the consequences of it.
And just being so open-minded that it's ultimately led you to this point, which I think comes with the amount of like mindfulness work that you do. I don't think that I've obviously done a near 6-month journey around Oz in different capacities, but like that doesn't then make me want to go and jet set and be living around the world for 6 months. I think that is such a beautiful presence where you're like just open to what's next. But obviously comes with a lot of hard work as well and discipline. I mean, you are still working full time, you're managing everything that you are online while going around the world. And that's why you're getting these huge training sessions in so early in the morning.
Yeah, I think all of the stuff that looks cool on Instagram that I get to do and things like that is only valuable and meaningful to me because I'm able to say, I can go out and eat all this amazing food. I can go and meet all these people while maintaining a business, while maintaining relationships. Me and my best friend were obviously apart in distance now, but we made a commitment when I started this that every morning I would check in with him about what I did the day before. And he'd let me know one thing that happened with his daughter that was recently born. And it's actually intensified our relationship in the best way. And we're already, my missus used to ask questions sometimes. Like it was, we're incredibly close, but it's just, you can make choices, you can make the best out of everything, but you kind of in some ways got to earn those highlights to really make them highlights. I train for 6 hours before breakfast. I'm telling you, breakfast tastes better that way.
What was the biggest highlight around Australia?
Biggest highlight around Australia? Being in Alice Springs. I'd done very minimal travel. Whenever I had, I'd been up and down the coast, the East Coast, and hang out at the beach and find a bar. But you go to Alice Springs and you experience this, like, whether or not you believe in magic, like you believe there's something magical about the place. There's something different. There's something we don't know. If we think of magic as just something we don't know or can't explain, there's just a feeling out there. And specifically, I guess, relating it to running as well, running the Larapinta Trail. I used to head out there, as soon as you get about 5 Ks out of Alice Springs, there's no phone reception. So I'm heading out there at 3, 4 in the morning, running this track. You got dingoes howling in the background. I found out that snakes are nocturnal around there. I don't know if that's everywhere. I'm clearly not very educated there. And I'm just running through this trail. And then I remember one morning specifically, I sort of nearly slipped on the out part of an out and back. And I was like, that's fine. And I was, running. And then I was coming back and I was at that same spot. And I looked where I nearly slipped because I could see my foot slide mark. And it was a proper drop off. And I was like, I was one step away from falling off. And if that doesn't excite you, then I don't know what does. Like it's just a magical place,
That is living,
It's a truly magical place.
Yeah, no.
But outside of that as well, I better say, just being able to spend so much quality time with my wife. It's truly, all jokes aside, was just, I'll never ever take that time for granted. It's made us so remarkably close, we're best friends. And
that's so beautiful, mate.
Beautiful
and
as well.
Yeah, it's a place I need to go, Alice Springs. I would love to run around Uluru and embrace all of that. You mentioned before about how, your travel used to be up and down the East Coast, maybe check out a few bars. That doesn't seem to be who you are today. It's obviously been a bit of a journey. Was there a past life where you were, big into the drinking, partying, and all of that?
Yeah, for sure. Early 20s, things like that, there was a lot of going out, and there was a lot of doing things that I would never want to do now, and putting my body through hell, and up all night, go to work the next day, out all night again that night, going to raves, doing all this and making bad decisions. And I don't regret a single minute of it, because taught me the value of health. It taught me the value of being present. Like, I can't imagine going out for a drink now because it's just going to slightly take away from my presence and experience of the rest of the day. Not saying there's anything wrong if you have 1 or 2 drinks. I do still occasionally, every now and again. There's times for it where it can enhance your experience, but to the point where I'm drunk and not there, you know, drinking at a restaurant so I can't taste the food, like, it's taught me that. And for me, that's what's important. And it's, yeah, I think anytime we do stuff that could be regrettable, is not, it's just teaching you what's really important. Because if there's any sense of regret around it, you know that it's not important.
Yeah.
You're never going to regret something that was important.
Yeah, it helps you get really clear on your values. I mean, you are who you are, and that's a culmination of all your experiences, right?
Yeah.
Very different lifestyle is one where you're up all night partying, going to work, partying again. How much has that actually, like, that perspective driven you for these early mornings with your training and then in races to really rip in because you reflect back on those times as well?
Yeah, part of it is that, you know, if I go out for a run, especially on a weekend, I'm seeing myself walk out of the bar.
Yeah, of course.
I'm seeing the old me, I'm seeing that, and it drives me to know that, sure, I don't always want to be out. Actually, very often I don't want to be out there at that time, you know. It's not, I get up at 2, I feel happy or whatever, but it's like the last thing I want to do is go for a run. I wouldn't mind going for an easy walk or watching a movie or having something to eat, you know, especially running around Southeast Asia where there's food open all the time. I'd love to stop for a fried rice instead, but I see that and I'm like, this might feel hard now, but that was harder because I didn't even know what I was going through. Now I'm here, I'm choosing to do this, and I get to take that experience into my day knowing that I've already made a choice that's good for me. Now it's like, what can I do with that? Like, how much can I give back?
How much has ultra running taught about yourself, and like, how much has it made you critically aware of, the values you want to live by?
I think ultra running is like, it's a condensed version of life every time you do it.
So true.
It's the hyperbolic chamber, you know. It's Vegeta trying to catch Goku. It's in an 8-hour run, you go through every emotion, right? You go through this huge link of emotions, and you get to experience yourself at your worst and at your best, and you get to experience how you interact with the world. You know, in a race, you're interacting with your crew, you're interacting with other racers. It's like, who are you? I remember I show up to every race going, I am this hardcore athlete, I'm super intense. And then I get to the aid station, I was like, hey! Like, it's like, that's cool. I love seeing that part of myself. And it reminds me in day-to-day life when I'm frustrated at my laptop not working and someone like tries to help me, don't get snappy at them. Like, be happy with them, they're trying to help you. So it's being able to disconnect yourself from your emotions, not to ignore them or forget about them, but to not let them control you. Your emotions aren't decision makers. We can't let them be, because they'll take us down a path that we're not proud of. So it's learning to take what's happening and then separate from it, let go of it, and reconnect with who you actually are and your values. Yeah.
So many people are trying to become more disciplined, and maybe they're listening to people like David Goggins, they're watching YouTube, things that fire them up. You're an incredibly disciplined guy, and there's no there's no secrets to it. Like, it's just work, and it's day after day after day, and I've seen that in less than a week of being around each other. How can someone else become more disciplined? What are the things that you sort of started to tap into when you were beginning in this running journey, and just as an athlete in general?
I think there's 2 elements to that. There's, you know, the sort of age-old wisdom of start slow, build habits. I think it's very true. You know, do something every day. Find something that you can do every day.
Goggins always says, do something every day that sucks.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
It doesn't have to suck at first.
Okay.
I think there's potentially benefit to that. Yeah. Do things that hurt. You know, I start every morning with a 5-minute horse stance, which is just like a squat hold position. That sucks. You know, because sometimes my runs don't suck. They feel good.
Yeah.
A horse stance for 5 minutes has never felt good.
Yeah.
So I think there's value in that, but I don't think you need to start there, because if it sucks too much, you're not going to do it.
No, of course.
And you need to learn what your level of suck management is, but do something every day. You know, choose something. You know, I've run more days in a row than I've brushed my teeth. And it's just, there's so much immense value to it. It doesn't need to be the hardest thing. It could be a 10-minute walk.
Yeah.
It could be 10 minutes of reading a book if you really want, you know. This doesn't have to relate to fitness. But then the second part of it is sort of the more overarching one that's going to really take you, because even those little habit building tricks, they're easy to break down. You go on a holiday, you don't bring your book, you forget, you can't do it. But create a story. You know, almost fake it till you make it. I run every day. Say that on day one. But you need to believe it. You need to make it real. You need to make the story real. Like, I don't have the option of not running. It's just not an option. I can't even consider what would happen. Like, people are like, you know, what would you do if you didn't run? I don't know. I have to run every day. It's impossible not to. So like, work to create a story. In the end, we are literally, again, it's cliche, but we're writing our own story every day. So you get to choose that, and you need to voice it. You need to tell everyone. I'm telling you right now, I run every day, and I'm planning on doing it for the next 10,000 days, you know? Cool, now I have to do it. It's the first time I've said that, but now I'm going to do it. It's a story, it exists.
It's powerful, mate. I love that so much. I think that I was 20 when I came out with this goal. Early 2018, posted on social media. It's still there for anyone who wants to look, that I was going to run around Australia. And, you know, I remember people being like, what do you mean? Like, you've been running for, it would have only been 9 months at best, maybe 6. I was a footballer until September 2017, ran my marathon 3 weeks after football, which comes back to the conversation earlier about, you know, your fitness age and transfer as well. Like, I know that I had fitness from football for that. But then I come out and I announce this goal that I'm going to run around Australia, and people looked at me like I was an idiot, but I believed, and that was the story that I put out there. And then I had to work towards that story every day. And because I had to work to that story, I had to seek help. I had to ask for, you know, mentors. I had to meet people. I had to get a little bit of wisdom from everyone. I had to develop a network, friends who believed in me and the mission and the charity that I was supporting, and become part of the Run Around Australia. Like, there's so many parts to this, but it all started with that story. So that's powerful advice.
Yeah, you're the epitome of that, you know. Before my first race, I came up with the slogan, first race, first place. And there was no other option. I had to come first in that race.
Wow.
You know,
what was the race?
It's called the Australia Day Ultra at the time. I believe it's called the True Blue Ultra now. It's over in WA. Yeah. 100K flat footpath thing.
Jeez.
Yeah.
First race, first place.
First race, first
And you got it done.
Yeah.
That's special, man.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Thank you.
Well, what's next for you? Obviously, I know you're on this journey right now with your wife and traveling around the world, and obviously working full time, still training for maintenance. Do you have any races in the pipeline or anything that you're working towards?
No races right now. Right now, it's really just embodying that idea of training for training and not needing a race, not wanting a race, just seeing how much I can push myself from that place of internal sort of satisfaction, I guess, and really focusing in on my coaching and developing through that, and using my own training as a bit of an experiment for that, going through different phases that way. But yeah, just enjoying the fruits of my labor in the sense of what is running going to give me while I'm traveling. Like, how much of the world can I see through it? How many days in a row can I back up and do 70,000 steps a day and see all that? So it's like, yeah, it's a bit of an integration point in my life at the moment, but trying to just, nail in and focus on my clients, focus on my experience, and just get a little bit better every day.
Unreal. And is there a return date to Australia, or no, just stay on the move?
Stay on the move for now. It's fairly open, seeing where the winds take us and where my feet take us, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously got you to this point, which is a great place. And I think I love that you had that trip around Australia. It opened doors, obviously, into the Bali Hope. Bali Hope's then made you where you are now. Yeah, can't wait to see where you go next, mate. It's going to be special. And for anyone who wants to follow along your journey, where can they go?
They can check out my Instagram. You've got Merakai_performance. If you're more into food, you've got stories through food. But yeah, follow me on there. I'm fairly active and always open for a conversation with anyone who wants to have one.
Giddy up, mate. Thanks so much for jumping on the long run.
Thanks, Shawnee. Thanks, brother.
Unreal.
That was a cool chat, man.
If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review and share it with others. If you're chasing a long distance running goal, whether it's your first half marathon, an ultra, or even a multi-day expedition, I'd love to help you get there. With Sean Bell Run Coaching, I create personalized programs based on your goals, experience, and lifestyle, helping you enjoy the process and stay consistent. And if you're after a keynote speaker who brings big energy and real impact, I'm here to deliver. I speak to businesses, schools, and sporting teams to help them giddy up and level up. For me, giddy up meant running around Australia in record time. But for your team, it might mean taking ownership of their health, stepping up in their career, or having a conversation they've been putting off. If I can go from a football bench warmer to a running world record holder, what's possible for you and your team if you're prepared to giddy up and level up? You can find everything, run coaching, keynotes, and more at SeanBellRuns.com or on socials at SeanBellRuns. Giddy up.
Giddy up!